welcome back to The Witchy Web We Weave. I'm Alex.
I'm Alara.
And we are a little late on the game, but we are going to be talking about Samhain today. Literally every other channel I follow has released their video.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it happens. So we're just going to hop right into it. So Samhain is the third harvest of the year.
It's also the last harvest of the season, which is why it marks the end of the Celtic year.
So yeah, this is like New Year time, I guess, technically, which I didn't know until recently, and I was like, I guess that makes some sense.
Well, if up until that point you were basing your entire calendar off of farming, harvesting, agriculture, then yeah, it makes perfect sense for the last harvest to mark the end of your year.
No, when I was first studying all this stuff, Yule, the one after that, is about rebirth and cycle, so I would think that would be your new year, but I digress. So, do we just want to, what things are related? Alright, so we are looking at, where do we want to start? Herbs and flowers? Okay. So, herbs for this time of year, kind of some of the same ones as Mabon, so your allspices, your cinnamons, your spicy spices. So I had a little accident in the kitchen the other day and I overused cloves, like ground clove.
Ooh.
Don't do that. Yeah, it was really spicy. Some flowers, we did talk about this in another video, that should be up here in a minute. Nightshade and other deadly plants, we talk about those in another video, so we're not really gonna harp on that too much.
Mandrake is also a big one for this time of year.
I can see that, yeah.
Along with is it broom? And like calendula?
Yeah. So broom is actually what they used to make brooms out of. That is why they are called brooms. I don't actually know where that grows. I'm gonna be honest. I don't know if it grows. Does it grow here at all? Like in the States?
I'm not entirely certain. I know that it grows in Europe,
right?
in traditional Celtic Europe.
Yeah, so that is what you would traditionally make your broom out of if you had the inclination.
Well, I've also seen people make brooms out of lavender and rosemary and things like that.
A lot of those are besoms, though.
Fair enough.
So, if you want like a full-size broom, like writing size, typically they are made out of broom.
I've also seen ones made out of like willow branches and stuff like that, or out of particular
like reedy kind of trees that are
for particular uses.
More flexible.
I thought that was very interesting. It's probably something I'm going to look more into in the future, just out of curiosity.
No, yeah.
Any other herbs?
Rosemary, sage, and mint.
Yeah, because this is kind of a very cleansing time.
Yeah, so yeah, this time of year is definitely for protection stuff, for cleansing stuff. Kind of a lot of things like Mabon, because it's, again, kind of out with the old, in with the new kind of stuff. I feel like Samhain's more of a out with the old and talking about the old, and in with the new doesn't come until Yule or the one after that, though.
Yeah.
In like a traditional sense.
This is almost... It's almost kind of like the idea of spring cleaning. I want to say, but it's more like a spiritual based. So I feel like Samhain in particular this is one of the reasons why I really like Samhain, and I've always really enjoyed this time of year, is because it feels so, the rest of the year feels kind of, I don't know, it feels like once you get to Samhain, all the energy of the year is kind of built up and built up and built up, and it's kind of starting to feel a little stale. And so Samhain feels like it's the time of year where you kind of start like dusting away at it and like peeling back the layers and kind of like taking a look at like your year as a whole and doing like the work that.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
And then it just kind of leads to like a refreshing of energy afterwards.
Yeah.
So I feel like this time of year is like a deep dive time.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and then rosemary, I think, is one of those good ones, and it's used in a lot of holidays, but it's really good for remembrance. They actually say this is actually something I learned when I was trying to study for finals in college, that rosemary helps you remember stuff. So it's good for, like, if you're studying and stuff, to have it kind of wafting through your rooms because it apparently helps your memory.
Well, now I'm gonna go make a spray bottle of rosemary for when I'm writing my papers and like studying for my test. Like, pss, pss, pss,
right? Hose the paper down. A+. Some Chef powder, just.
I mean, if it works.
Yeah, I've heard people doing that with their papers at school.
So, moving on from like herbs and things, I think going on to like colors.
Mm-hmm.
Common colors for this time of year are black, silver, brown. I think like the darker fall colors, like dark purple, like that royal purple. And then like the more like russety orange and like darker reds and things like that.
So orange in general, so black and orange are very big Samhain colors. So yeah, Halloween colors are traditional, ironically. We'll get to that in a minute anyway. But yeah, so this is one of those times of years that it's really easy to fly under the radar. Because everyone's like, oh, it's time to be, you know, witchy or whatever. It's kind of like trendy at the moment to do that kind of stuff, especially this time of year.
Yeah.
So everyone's doing like nails, or they're wearing like crazy stuff, or
I've seen some really cute Halloween nails though.
Yeah, I had really good ones for that party we went to, but they had to come off. Yeah, I get nervous when I have long nails because I feel like they're just gonna catch and break on everything. I digress.
Yes.
So, after that, so kind of going with, this is traditionally what we think of as Halloween, but it's a lot older than that, is animals related with the season. Bats, black cats,
Owls, I think.
owls, and ravens. So anything that you, and probably crows, I'm going to be honest. So anything traditionally black as an animal is probably going to fall really comfortably under this holiday. And again, a lot of these creatures are, witchy type familiars or associated with witchy kind of people. So all that stuff's kind of there for a reason. It's been around for a long, long time. Now, I will say the owl thing is kind of funny to me because I don't know if it's all Mexico, but in large parts of Mexico, the owl is like a symbol of death.
Oh.
So it's not a symbol of wisdom like it is for a lot of people. It's literally like a bad omen.
Well, yeah, isn't it supposed to be if you like hear an owl hoot, then somebody's going to die or something like that?
Probably. I don't remember. My friend that does the Santa Muerte stuff was telling us because they sell a lot of statues of Santa Muerte with an owl on her shoulder. A la, Athena kind of thing, but it's Santa Muerte. So a lot of Mexicans that are, especially the ones that are superstitious, are horrified by owls. And I'm like, but they're so cute. But yeah, I guess something silently creeping in the wind at night, going, ooh, would be a little frightening.
Well, it's also the idea of the owl is kind of like the silent watcher, which is a very common thread or a common theme in a lot of dark goddesses.
True.
Especially with my own.
Isn't she more of a
raven, though? She is very, very, very heavily associated with crows and ravens. But one of her themes with me is she is the silent watcher. Or she is the watcher from the void, things like that. So there is a lot of energy with the owl that I kind of see as a very close association with her.
Yeah, I can see it. Alright, so going on from there, kind of in the same theme, altar decorations or things to put around your house if you don't maybe do altars, because I don't do altars. Acorns, apples, pumpkins, again, a very big symbol for the holiday. Cauldrons, if you have, I would say a small one for altar size, but if you have a big one, I would use it a lot more now. If you're more of a modern witch, a lot of people call their crock pot their cauldron. So
I can see it.
That works.
I kind of like that a lot.
Yeah, because it's all that heat and throwing stuff in there. Something delicious comes out, right? Chrysanthemums are still a big flower this time of year. It kind of spread from Maven to now because it's still a flower that does really well in this kind of weather and colder weather. Excuse me.
Also, having black or silver candles out.
Mm-hmm. I will also say brown in some instances because at the store where I get my candles in Arizona, they would make brown ones for ancestry.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
if you do that, brown is also a good color for that.
Also, bones. If you are someone that likes bones or collects bones or is very comfortable with bone energy, this is, for me, this is like prime season to soak up that beautiful bone energy and like have them out.
Probably other parts too.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, because we just went to our store and they now have chicken feet and chicken hearts. So if y'all are into parts, this is definitely the time of year for all that. I like bones. I don't know about other parts quite yet. They kind of give you the heebie-jeebies a little bit. But
You're just not used to holding a heart in the palm of your hand and being able to crush it if you need.
Oh my. I mean, that might be a thing.
I mean, it would be very symbolic.
Right? Now the other thing that I really like that's kind of in food, herb, and altar stuff is pomegranates. So that is obviously very heavily associated with Hades and the whole underworld myth. And we've talked about this before. It's also believed that it could have been the fruit from the Garden of Eden. Now here's my other thing though, because I was doing more research on seasonal stuff, and the word for apple or for whatever, and I forget what language it is, literally looks like the word pomegranate.
Really?
So I'm like, did they just really get that so confused because it looked the same? And if you'd never seen a pomegranate, maybe you assumed, oh, they misspelled apple.
Oh.
Because apple in like a bunch of other languages is pom.
Oh.
Or pom is something. Like it's always P-O-M. I'm like,
That's interesting.
So yeah, so okay, so pomegranates, big thing for the season obviously, and the last little bit of altar stuff I guess is if you do ancestry stuff. We're not gonna get heavy into that because she's got a whole video on that coming up here, but if you do want to do ancestry stuff and maybe you don't do it all year necessarily, this would be a good time to do like a temporary one if you just want to do something light for like the season.
This is a very good time of year for the honoring of ancestors, for kind of sitting in that energy and communing, because I think this is a good time to kind of lead into this. The whole big thing with Samhain is it's closely tied in with the idea of this is the time of year where the veil is thinnest the most between the living and the dead. So this is a prime time of year for communication, for communing with ancestors, for doing shadow work, for communicating with deities and spirits of all kinds, and just I think that's one of the reasons why I view this time of year is the season for like deep diving, is because the energy is, you can practically feel the energy in the air because the veil is so thin. It just feels like everything's alive.
Yeah, I will say that it is easier to do stuff this time of year. I would say if you're interested in doing that, I will say that you might also slip in unintentionally if you're open to that kind of dreamscape and stuff. So just, if you're not into that, I would probably lay some protection stuff in your room. Just
Always.
saying.
I would say always, if you are doing astral travel,
Well, yeah, but
projection.
specifically if you're someone that you can do that, but you don't want that to happen, I would lay extra stuff out, like
for this particular time.
extra salt, spray some stuff, burn some incense, some candles.
And you know, something I've kind of been thinking about here lately a little bit more and more as we've gotten further into this season of the year is the idea of, I wonder if the reason why the veil is the thinnest has anything to do with this is also the time of year where the days are shorter and the nights are longer. And they're getting longer and longer and longer. Because I really do heavily associate the moon and lunar energy with the idea of the veil and the spirit world and, you know, of the otherness.
I would think so, honestly. I think that's probably where it came from originally, just because I'm sure, especially in the north where nights are already long and they got longer, that would probably be a little frightening, you know, and then a little more, you know, a lot more prayer and supplication was happening around that time to make it through the winter, I'm sure.
Which, this is all kind of a common theme with this particular holiday season, because one of the things with Samhain is that it often gets kind of wrapped up along with, like, All Souls Day, All Hallows Eve, what is it? There's All Souls Day, but then there's also
All Saints Day.
All Saints
too.
Day that is like a day
all
or
right around here.
It's all like
we're gonna get all up to that in
back to back.
very, very brief detail here in a minute. Just so y'all kind of know the differences and where everything kind of came from. But last little things that are kind of related to this are smells. So I guess I wouldn't say necessarily always incenses, just because people like me can't burn them all the time, just because I have a very sensitive fire alarm. And it went off the last time I tried burning sage. So that's kind of a no anymore. But if you can get a spray or what I used to have, I left it in Vegas though, is my mom has a hot plate that she got me that you would burn like oils and stuff on. And so what I ended up doing is I grabbed plain white wax and then I would throw resins in there, like frankincense and stuff.
That's a good idea.
And when it all melted, it would be aromatic. So, good things for this year right now is, I would say, frankincense would be a good smell just because of its kind of earthy, musky kind of
frankincense and myrrh are supposed to be pretty common for this time of year. I think, for me, patchouli would probably also be pretty good for this time of year. My personal thing, I don't know if this is actually in tune with the season traditionally, but for me, cedar. The smell of cedar is very big for me, especially during this particular time of year, because it is so heavily associated for me with the idea of ancestors and my own personal ancestors.
And then that's where things can probably range a little bit, just what's in your area that time of year, right? So I never really grew up with a lot of cedar in my areas. I always had like pine trees or palm trees or things not so, you know, pines are aromatic, but not other trees like that. But yeah, I could see cedar kind of being like a woodsy kind of thing, and cedar smells good too. But copal is a really good scent for this time of year.
I don't actually really like the smell of copal.
You don't like frankincense that much either, though, to be
I don't.
fair.
I find it to be it's too harsh perfumey, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know why I like frankincense, honestly, but that's one of the ones I do like, where I don't really like patchouli, but I do like frankincense.
Oh, you know what? I just realized why cedar would actually be good for this time of year. It's good for otherworld connection and like contacting the spirit world.
Oh, well, there you go.
So that actually kind of explains it.
Yeah.
On top of why I personally use it too.
That could be a thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Another one that's good for this time of year, that's one of our stores actually sells it in little bundles, sweetgrass, which I've never burnt sweetgrass, so I don't know what that smells like, but by itself when it's just dry, it smells pretty nice to
It
me.
smells like sweet hay.
I wouldn't
to
know.
Me. It smells like really sweet hay.
I don't doubt it. I couldn't tell you the last time I smelled hay.
If we're done with smells, I can also do some crystals.
Yeah, we'll head into that.
Okay. So for this time of year, for crystal correspondences, big ones are things like jet, onyx, obsidian,
Blackstones.
Tourmaline
would probably be a good one too.
Tourmaline, yes, I would think so. Especially for the protection sense of it. I want to say there is also bloodstone, I want to say, is another good one for this time of year. You okay?
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, okay. Oh, another. Dang it.
Just petting the pooches. But yeah, so a lot of blackstones that I happen to own, like a bunch of them, because I like blackstones. You mentioned your stone, your lady stone, bloodstone. That was, yep. And then the other one that I didn't really know why necessarily, because the color didn't really click with me, Aquamarine.
I think Aquamarine is more energy related than color related to this time of year.
I could see that. I don't think I've ever worked with Aquamarine though.
I think Aquamarine is supposed to be very cleansing, but it's also supposed to be like a more deeper intuition and introspective. So
oh, okay. Yeah, I could see that.
if I'm remembering correctly. It's been a minute. I don't actually own any Aquamarine. It's kind of pricey.
Yeah, it is. But yeah, I don't think I've worked with it quite yet. So as far as all that goes, now I was gonna say something else. I guess good things to do this time of year, just kind of to wrap that up, and then we're gonna talk about some other stuff real quick.
Okay.
Ancestry stuff we've mentioned a couple times. Really good stuff to do this year.
Shadow work. This is prime time for shadow work.
You do a lot more of that than I do. Just because I feel like, I don't know, I know runes are good for that, but I just feel like tarot is a lot more inward, so I feel like there's a lot more seeing things that you might not necessarily want to look at when you do tarot. I don't know. I haven't done tarot myself yet.
That's the whole thing. You need a lot of people have a specialized tarot deck that they use specifically for shadow work, because it takes each tarot deck kind of has its own personality after you get used to doing tarot after a while. And for shadow work, you either want a deck that is, depending on what you need, you either need one that is very gentle but won't bullshit you, or you need one that is going to smack,
sassy.
Yeah, sassy, or is going to smack you in the face and like, look here, this is what you need to be working on. So I just happen to have one that's very sassy.
Whereas with my rune set, at least, I just feel like it's gonna tell you what it wants to tell you anytime it wants to tell you it.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't really need a time of year for yours.
Yeah, so it's like, oh, yeah, this. When? Who knows? Oh, God.
No. Also, I feel like divination is a big one for this time of year.
Yeah, anything that kind of works with the veil or seeing other, I think, would be good right now. So, yeah.
Specifically, the metaphysical version of necromancy, where you're not controlling the dead, but you are contacting them with the purpose of, like, their guidance and their help.
Kind of along to go with that ancestry thing. Doesn't necessarily have to be an ancestor, I guess.
No, it can be just spirits in general. Or, for people who are into demonology, of course, that is always going to be at your own discretion. Please be careful. Please be safe. Please use common sense. Disclaimer. But this is a good time of year for that.
For all that kind of stuff. I don't know if this would be good necessarily for all deity, but if you were kind of reaching out, thinning of veils would maybe make it a little easier to maybe get some kind of response. Not saying you're gonna get one, for sure. But if you were kind of feeling inclined, you had kind of like a plan, it might be a little easier to commune this type of year.
Well, this is also the time of year that is specifically corresponding to dark moon deities.
Also, ironically
deities.
though, Persephone falls in there.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't think of that though, because they think of harvest when they think of her. Because of her mom and stuff.
Alright. I mean, I guess I kind of get it, but I do see Persephone as a very, I don't like the term dark goddess, because it often has a bad connotation where people associate with being, like, evil or bad or blah, 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 blah. So I like saying either dark moon goddess, or I like saying new moon goddesses. But that's very much how I view Persephone as a dark moon goddess, because she deals in those dark depths and that subconscious water, I guess. That's kind of how I feel it. But I could also see her being a little bit more bright and shiny and harvesty too. It's just, I think that this would also be a good time of year for her.
So this time of year just happens to work for both of us with our stuff. But like I said, I think it would work for communing purposes with
Yes.
probably any type of deity. Probably more so if you were leaning dark moon or night, you know, even if you're going night goddesses like Nyx or something, stuff like that would be or gods. No, no gender bias over here. We just happen to both work with ladies.
Yeah, that's true. This is also a good time of year for, specifically for astral travel, astral projection, for doing dream work. Dream work is going to be really big for this time of year. Because dreams are so so, what are you doing, dog?
Just
so
having
heavily
fun.
connected with collective collective unconscious, collective subconscious, collective unknown, yada yada. You just poked me with something. Markers. Continue.
Anything else we had on Samhain though, or do you want me to just hop into my other stuff?
Go ahead. I think we're good.
Alright, so that kind of, again, there's a lot more to Samhain. If y'all really want information, like, there's a lot of links, there's a lot more other videos that go way in depth into stuff. But I kind of wanted to break down how many holidays are right between the 31st and the 2nd of November, just on our little side of the world between America or the United States and Mexico. So we mentioned this a second ago, like I was raised Roman Catholic, so I didn't personally celebrate it just because I feel like these holidays are kind of like, and we're going to talk about that just briefly too, Dia de los Muertos, where it is a part of a culture and a religion that not necessarily everyone observes, because some of my family did, some of my family didn't, so I never really saw like what the big hoo-ha was. So All Saints Day and All Souls Day hits the 1st and the 2nd of November, which is right where Samhain falls, because surprise, surprise, the Celtic calendar happened first, and then, you know, Christianity came in, they're like, we need holidays in the same kind of spots where all these other holidays were. Originally, these holidays were, I think, in May or something, and then they're like, nah, November. And then they just shoved everything to the 1 week at a time. So Saints Day is to honor all your saints, especially if you're Catholic or something where they have the different saints for stuff. Because I know some Christian denominations don't do saints at all. So if you don't do saints, that's obviously not a thing for you. And then the next day, on the 2nd, is All Souls Day, which is basically kind of stolen almost from Dia de los Muertos, because it's literally just a remembrance of those who have passed, but only if they were Christian.
What?
Yeah. All Souls Day is only for Christian souls. Yeah. Didn't know that either until I was looking this up, and I was like, I guess that makes sense, because that's just how that goes. Not a whole lot to say on those. I just kind of wanted to let y'all know that, yes, the calendar has all kinds of days printed on it right now. Now, the one I did kind of want to go into a little bit was Dia de los Muertos. And I am half Mexican, but we don't celebrate Dia de los Muertos. And I actually thought for a while that it was like a forgotten holiday, like a holiday that we used to celebrate like in the old times, like in the early 1900s, that just kind of faded out.
Yeah.
But it's still very much a thing in certain parts of Mexico. So there are 2 days to Dia de los Muertos, which a lot of people don't know that. But the first one on the 1st is, what is the name of that? Dia de los Inocentes, which is Day of Innocence. So any child or infant that passed away is honored on that day with like an altar and offerings and all this stuff. And I was reading that like sometimes it's even more specific, where like the godparent hosts like the altar and stuff, and everyone goes to their house and stuff. So there's different rules for different ways of celebrating and honoring those days. And then the next day is the one we all know is Dia de los Muertos, which is anybody else that passed away that wasn't a child, basically. So with that, I would say out of all the holidays, Dia de los Muertos is most similar to Samhain, just because it has kind of the same, you know, you're honoring your ancestors. Literally, like in Mexico, in the years that celebrate this, you would pick up all your stuff, go to the cemetery, lay out food, and just like party in the cemetery. You know, like, here's your plate, Grandpa. You know, Grandpa's gone. Here's your plate. And then everyone else would just sit there and party and chat to Grandpa, you know, even though Grandpa's been gone for a couple years, you know what I'm saying? So, and I don't remember what country this is. I think it's somewhere in South America, though. They would exhume the corpses.
What?
And, like, parade them around. Yeah.
That seems a little disrespectful.
No, like, that was, like, a thing. Like, I don't know if they mummified them or whatever, but it was like, woo, let's go, Grandpa. And I was like, cultural differences, am I right? Because I would be horrified to, like, unbury a relative. I'd be like, I just scared the dog. It was funny. But, you know, in other cultures, it was literally like, oh, well, Grandma has to be at the table if we're putting a plate out for Grandma.
Oh.
So they just bring Grandma.
They couldn't just have a dumb supper?
Nope. Grandma's at that table. And I was like, okay. You know, but I think that group of people, unfortunately, I think they're, as a group, I think they're dying out. And I think, like, a lot of their newer generations moved out, you know, to get more opportunities and stuff, just like a lot of other groups, especially, like, other, like, random indigenous groups and stuff, where they're dying out because people move on, right? But going back to Dia de los Muertos, so I actually saw Pan de Muerto at Walmart the other day.
At Walmart?
At Walmart. It was all gone by the next time I got there, so I don't know if people knew what it was or they ate it and they're like, delicious.
I mean, if it's anything like the ones that we had, they were packed full of actual sugar.
Oh yeah, no, it's just sugary egg bread. And that's where we get calaveras, you know, the painted up skulls and the sugar skulls and all this other stuff where you get costumes and stuff.
Those are very not culturally, but like
pop culture.
Yes, there we go.
They're trendy.
Those are very trendy right now.
Yeah, I went to a Halloween party and someone was calavera for Halloween.
Oh.
Yeah. Me and Jose almost did that actually because I thought it would be ironic. But we didn't. But yeah, so I'm not going to get too in depth with that because again, my family's from the north part of Mexico and that is not a thing they do at all. Like, it's looked at almost like as heathenry, which is funny because it's still very Catholic in those parts of Mexico that celebrate it. But like other Catholic areas are like, oh, that's still heathenry. It's kind of like if a Catholic was celebrating Samhain and the Catholic Church was like, well, no. It's kind of the same thing, I guess. So I think it's a lovely holiday. I've never celebrated it just because it wasn't a thing with my family. But that's kind of what that is, again, very briefly. We did not go into it, but these holidays all fall in the same 4 days of, actually the same 2 days. It's all on November 1st and 2nd. Oh, and then Halloween is on the 31st. I'm sure all you know what that is. But I was reading that, like, a lot of stuff that came into Halloween, like, it started as kind of like Samhain, it's like in America, like it was already not Samhain, it was already called All Hallows Eve / Halloween, and we were doing, that's where a lot of like bobbing for apples and all this stuff that we don't really do anymore was a thing.
I haven't done that since I was in middle school.
I think I tried once and my mouth wasn't big enough to bite the apple and I was like, never again. But I was reading that it used to be a lot closer to Samhain where it was like honoring deceased members and like doing all this stuff and having, what's it called, a dumb supper or whatever?
Dumb supper.
Yeah, so like, you know, leaving offerings out, tables out, you know, all this stuff. And then at some point, like, the government or something was like, yeah, this is a little weird and creepy, let's just have parties and candy. And that's literally what happened.
When did that happen? Out of curiosity.
I think, shit.
40s, 50s?
I think a little earlier than that. But I mean, it was kind of right around that time where it was like parties became a thing. And then that's where we got costumes and stuff. Costumes were originally like a thing way back in the day because it was supposed to frighten spirits and stuff. Especially if they were looking for you. Because then you were costumed and they couldn't find you. Because that would work. I'm like, I feel like if you're a spirit, you got ways. You know what I mean? But I digress. But, so costumes have been a thing for a while, but I mean, like, the whole wearing things like pop culture type stuff happened later, and then it just became, let's get drunk and have candy. And that's how it evolved. But it literally started kind of like Samhain, because it was brought over by Irish immigrants. And then it just kind of spread, and then it was like, no creepy dead people, let's just candy. And yeah, there you go, Halloween.
Which actually, it's really sad that Halloween is kind of dying out a little bit more and more in this area that I'm living. Like Mom, she was so excited when she got her house. She's like, I have a house, I can like give out candy on Halloween. She didn't get a single trick-or-treater 2 years in a row.
Oh.
Like, she left the light on and everything. Like, she was like, I left my light, you know, and she was like, I left my light on so they would know I was home, and I had, like, decorations out. I was like,
oh, well, there you go.
I was like, oh,
I was saying, because your front door is kind of like...
I know, but
weird.
she was so excited for the prospect of trick-or-treaters, and she didn't get a single one.
You know what's wild? I remember trick-or-treating in my apartment growing up a lot.
I do, too.
So, I don't know.
Just, I don't know. Like, and we even live in a really, like, heavily residential area. No
Sad times. I'm not allowed to trick-or-treat because I'm old, but no one wants to trick-or-treat when they're little, so that's what I say.
I know. It's kind of strange to me that once you hit teenager and older, that's actually when you get super excited about Halloween. Like, the American Halloween.
Mm-hmm. I don't know why everyone's like so grumpy. It's like, you already have a bowl of candy. You can't give me like a tiny piece of candy? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
I just wish that I just wish it would evolve away from being only a kids only holiday to where it's okay for older teenagers and adults to do it too. Because I think it would just be
fun.
Well, that, and I think it would kind of revive the tradition a little bit.
Yeah, but, you know, people our age are expected to dress scandalously and get drunk. I'm not about it.
I mean...
You do what you want to do, but I am not about it.
Actually, for the most part, my Halloween costumes are kind of more even kilter. Like, I was thinking of being like Roxanne Ritchie from, like, Megamind. The reporter.
Mm-hmm.
I even got the hairstyle for it.
Yeah, you do. Just need to...
I know.
Some brown.
I know. I would have to darken it.
But yeah, so that probably wraps us up.
Pretty much. We
But
got
yeah,
on a
so
tangent, but
little details about other holidays that are here, and as far as I could tell, Samhain's the oldest one celebrated specifically this time of year.
Yeah.
As far as this kind of holiday. But yeah, everything else, if y'all are curious, I found most of my stuff on the old Wikipedia.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want more information on the other holidays, go for it. Oh, last little thing about Dia de los Muertos that I learned that I thought was fascinating. You ever seen the James Bond movie?
Yeah.
The one that starts in Mexico City?
Oh, yes.
So, what are the movies? I forget which one.
Spectre?
Was it that one? I don't remember. It's been a long time.
Skyfall or something?
One of those. One of the new ones with Daniel Craig, right? Not the other James Bond movies, but it starts out in Mexico City, and there's this huge Day of the Dead parade, right? With like parades and floats and stuff.
Almost kind of like a Mardi Gras.
Yeah, that was just the movie. That was not a previously existing parade. They just organized that whole thing just for the movie to have like some kind of creepy atmosphere.
And then it got really popular.
And then it did really, really well to where they had to keep doing it because it like boosted the economy. Because everyone wanted to go. And I think the year after that, they got like 250,000 people showed up for it. So it did pretty well. But yeah, so when people pay attention to holidays and they do well, things happen.
Yep. Oh,
but yeah.
By the way, we're both thematically dressed.
We're themed.
I know. Like, I got skulls and pumpkins.
You have skulls on there?
I do. I have skulls.
Oh, yeah, you're right. They're hidden. All I saw was pumpkins.
I know. I got them on this side too.
I see.
But yeah, we're thematically dressed.
We're just too well. You got your knees up there. I'm just too short to. There you go. I got pumpkins and gourds and leaves.
There you go. And some acorns.
Oh yeah, I got acorns too. But yeah, we'll catch you on the next one.
All right. Many blessings.
Toodaloo.
Bye.